once you get people on a blockchain and you get a digital dollar, well, now you can have negative interest rates. And, oh, you've got your savings account and it's all digital now. So now we can start taking money from you. Or, oh, we saw that you were posting this thing that the crown doesn't like. And, oh, we're going to take your money away. And, oh, we think that everyone should have self-driving cars and because it's going to be safer. And if you don't have it, then we're going to raise your rates on this. And so it's going to be a tool for social engineering, social control. They're going to get people to self-censor. So then, and we're going to turning into China.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and I would hope that by now viewers of this channel are well aware of the fact that the reaction to this global pandemic is far worse than the virus we're seeing itself coming at the hands of these tyrannical authoritarian governments. I mean, as I just said on Twitter last night, jobs have been terminated, public places are closed, everyone's on lockdown, prisoners are being released from prison, and church has been temporarily suspended. We are witnessing organized and pre-planned chaos designed to make you clamor toward your own enslavement. Wake up. Well, it seems that people might be waking up, because as you see right here, the #1 trend on Twitter this morning is Trudeau dictatorship. This comes right behind coronavirus lockdown, but #1 is Trudeau dictatorship. Now, why is everybody upset with Trudeau? Well, he was going to introduce a bill that would allow them to tax and spend without Parliament's approval. This, of course, got people rather upset, and rightly so, and the Liberals have since retreated on the sweeping bill, and we now have this from our neighbors to the south. Coronavirus stimulus offered by House Financial Services Committee creates new digital dollar. But the final version of the economic stimulus package offered by Speaker Pelosi with the House of Democrats no longer includes the U.S. digital dollar proposal. However, the language as proposed by the chairwoman Waters of the House Financial Service Committee still contains this language. So it almost would seem as if they're putting it into the minds of the masses that this is indeed what they want to do, and then kind of stepping back and when people get upset about it and saying, oh, don't worry, we're not really going to do that, when we all know that is the real agenda here. So joining us on the line today to help us understand the implications of all of this is our friend Tim Pashot, the Liberty Advisor. TheLibertyAdvisor.com is his website. Tim, thank you so much for joining us here today, man, in these unbelievably unprecedented times. I truly believe that everything we're seeing today is in terms of people's jobs losses. We're really going to feel the ramifications of this attack in the coming weeks from now, when people's tempers change, when they go from being afraid of the virus to being angry at the government's overreaction, at which point it might cause more panic buying and maybe even runs on the banks. What do you make of this current play by the Canadian government and the American government, it would seem, to suggest this into the minds of the masses and then kind of step back and say, no, we're not really going to do that? What do you make of this strange move that they've made today?
Well, it's an honor to be on, Dan. And what I make of this, and we just last saw each other at Anarchapulco, I mean, a month and a half ago. And my presentation I gave there was on, it was called something along the lines of 2020, what's in store, and how to profit and protect yourself from this. And the strategy that at the very end of that presentation that I gave out was actually the winning strategy of how to end up playing this. But what I do is I would invite everyone to go check that out, because inside of there, I listed all these different black swans, whether it was the corporate debt. We have over half the bonds right now that are investment grade bonds are the lowest rung of investment grade bonds, meaning that they're one step away from being junk. Now, traditionally, every time you have a recession, is a lot of those triple B bonds end up becoming junk bonds, and what happens is a lot of these now index funds would then be forced to sell. And so you've got the Fed coming in and saying, we're going to start buying corporate bonds. The Fed even came out yesterday and said that they're going to actually start buying funds directly from the ETFs and mutual funds themselves. This is a corporate bailout where the bond prices are at all-time highs, and they get to then, instead of actually having to deal with the ramifications of the free market, they end up getting bailed out. This is complete crony capitalism, but that's just one of the bubbles. I mean, you've got the fact that in America, 60% of U.S. seniors, and these stats were going back 2 months ago, so it's even worse now. 60% of them had 55 to 65-year-olds had less than $100,000 saved. This was not the greatest economy ever. It was all propped up. Trump was rightly criticizing Obama the entire time, going back to 2012 all the way through to the election, saying that this is a big fat phony economy. But now that it's his big fat ugly bubble, he wanted to keep it going. So I started my podcast. So I am a financial advisor. It's very onerous in terms of the rules and regulations and what I'm allowed to say. So I didn't end up starting my own podcast until the week of the election. And in that podcast, I said the worst thing Trump could do would be to try to keep this whole bubble going. But I knew it was way too easy to do that. And so I pretty much, if you go through the timeline, talked about how what would happen is that the market, relative to Hillary, and I was the biggest Trump fan out there at the time, that relative to Hillary, that things would be going up. People would have optimism. That optimism would then give the Federal Reserve. They would lose all excuses not to cut rates. Because remember, with Obama, they only raised rates really before the election, really only one time, and then after the election, they raised it. I think it was 3 more times. But there was just a deluge of bad information. So it was that bad information was actually the bad news was actually good news. And now with Trump, I called it January 2017, Trump effect, why good news is bad news. And so the premise of it was that all of this good news would then mean that the Fed can't keep the rates low, which then they would lose that excuse. So they'd have to raise rates. Then the raising of the rates would then be bad news. And then they'd have to then basically retract everything they said they were doing. Because just remember, October 3rd, 2018, or October 4th, 2018, Jerome Powell said that we were on autopilot and that what they were going to do is that they were going to sell $50 billion of bonds a month. Every quarter, they're going to raise interest rates by a quarter of a point. I knew that couldn't happen. I had another podcast called The Perfect Storm is brewing, detailing that in May of 2018. And so now we've gone from the point of pretending that we could sell $50 billion of bonds a month to now the Fed was just buying yesterday or 2 days ago, $185 billion in one day. Mm-hmm. So it goes from we're going to sell $50 billion a month to now we're going to buy $185 billion a day. And let me just run over a quick hit list of what's gone on just the past couple weeks here. The rates have been reduced to zero. The reserve requirement has been reduced to zero. The banks used to have to hold on to 10% of your money. Now they don't have to hold on to any of it. And so the presentation I gave at Acapulco is that part's already obsolete because we had this whole repo madness. And if you guys want to know more about that, I'll check out the presentation because I get into how all this stuff really kicked off back in September when the overnight interest rate got shot up over to 10%. But that's sort of jumping around here. We had 3 different $500 billion 3-month term repos last week. So that's 1.5 trillion there, the 185 billion in QE a day. They're willing to provide the markets with unlimited support. They're buying mortgage-backed securities. They're buying treasuries. They're outright monetizing the debt. And you can actually track this through QSIP numbers. And in the presentation, I go through and I prove how they're monetizing the debt. They're buying muni bonds. We mentioned earlier now. They're buying corporate bonds. They're using stock as collateral. So they're technically not buying stock, but the banks can say, hey, oh, here's this stock. And then the Fed says, oh, well, here's a pile of money for that stock, which is effectively an end run around them buying stock. I mean, yeah, you can, on technicalities, I guess they aren't. You've got the Financial Accounting Standards Board saying that the banks, they want to change their accounting rules so that way they don't have to show as many losses. You've got a 2-year blackout on repo operation transparency. So we have no idea who's borrowing the money, how much they're borrowing it, any of the details. We won't know for 2 years from now. These proposals are showing a 6-month window blackout on knowing, who's getting any of this bailout money. And then there's this whole digital dollar, which to me is the biggest story here because I was really slow to adopt Bitcoin. I knew about it when it was $1, but I thought this was going to be a tool for the globalists to then basically checkmate everybody. And then I started learning more about the decentralized nature of it. I started learning more about privacy coins. But I even said at Acapulco that there's 2 paths we can take. Everything is going to be digital. It almost already is digital. But what they want to do is they want to be able to get this into their like slave technocratic grid. So that way, what is going to happen is that they can track you, trace you, surveil you, cut you off. Oh, Dan Dix was making a video we didn't like. We're going to go take his funds. And so it's just, I see this trial balloon and it's scary as hell.
Well, if it is all pre-planned and this is all a part of an agenda that has already been laid out beforehand, what would you say is the ultimate end game here? I mean, is it literally the one world digital currency, or how do you see this playing out? The literal crashing of the economy right now. What's the end game plan here?
Well, the end game is, I mean, we have the creator of the Federal Reserve System was a guy by the name of Paul Warburg. So in the play Annie, Daddy Warbucks was modeled after him, and Paul Warburg said, "We shall have a one world government. It's only a matter if it's through consent or conquest." So they tried getting it through wars. That was the conquest part. Now what they're going to do is they're going to get the people to beg for it. So okay, you want your $1,500? You want your universal basic income? Oh well, we can administer this much more efficiently. Like, yeah, like the government cares about efficiency. So here's this digital dollar, and then to get the digital dollar, you've got to sign up and put your passport in, put your driver's license in. Maybe you've got to get eventually get some sort of chip or some sort of tattoo. And then with this digital dollar, once they get everything digitized, now all of a sudden they can eventually start tightening the noose. And so I don't expect them to do this rapidly. They're going to suck you in, just like they sucked all of us in on Facebook and on YouTube, where, oh yeah, we're an open and free platform to start making content here, and oh, we're never going to censor you. And then we see all the stuff that's going on. I mean, I don't need to tell you about this because I mean you're pretty much a prime example number one on what the powers that be can do. But the end game of this is to have this this blockchain based currency that the government, we've been calling it like a Goldman Sachs.gov coin or a Federal Reserve.gov coin, and it's going to be in that direction. So what my role in all this has been is to try to tell people about the privacy coins, tell them about the decentralized nature of this, and to not get them to accept that. And I see this as a trial balloon. I mean, we also had just recently that Coinbase's former chief legal officer was just appointed starting April 1st. This guy, I think his last name is Brooks, and he's been appointed to oversee the banking system now. So he is now going to be he's going to serve as the chief operating officer and first deputy comptroller of the Office of Comptroller of the Currency, or OCC. So, I mean, you can see how they're trying to get these people into place. And unfortunately, I see people even in the blockchain space who I don't think are, as savvy to this. And, and who knows? I mean, we're good. But once you get people on a blockchain, and you get a digital dollar, well, now you can have negative interest rates. And, oh, you've got your savings account and it's all digital now. So now we can start taking money from you. Or, oh, we saw that you were posting this thing that the crown doesn't like. And, oh, we're going to take your money away. And, oh, we think that everyone should have self-driving cars and because it's going to be safer. And if you don't have it, then we're going to raise your rates on this. And so it's going to be a tool for social engineering, social control. They're going to get people to self-censor. So then, and we're going to turning into China. I mean, I thought Hillary Clinton getting elected would basically, Trump basically sort of delayed a lot of this stuff. But on the other hand, he also enabled it because now, as a guy who probably leaned more conservative, obviously I'm libertarian, voluntarist, but but look at all the stuff that Trump has been able to get pushed through. I mean, if at least if Hillary was in there, you'd have all the conservatives, all the Tea Party people pushing back against this. And now it's like, if you try to push back against it, they just call you a libtard. But it's like, oh, you don't like, $2 trillion deficits. Oh, you're just a libtard. Oh, you don't like, all these encroachments on our freedom. Well, you must not like America. And so everything America is doing right now is completely against what the founding fathers wanted. This is all crap. We're going into basically fascism. When you have the central bank who is then buying corporate bonds, and the bondholder is the highest, basically lien holder if a company were to go bankrupt. So if a company goes bankrupt, the Federal Reserve owns the bonds, then the Fed then owns that company. And so they can take money out of thin air, just print it up, and then they own everything, which is why you had, I don't know if it was Franklin or Thomas Jefferson that said, if you ever allow the central banks to issue the private currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, you're going to end up homeless on the continent your forefathers conquered. They were smart enough about this stuff. You had guys like Alexander de Tocqueville who said, if you ever allow people to start voting themselves from the public trough, that eventually all democracies lead into tyranny. That's exactly where we're going, and that's exactly why you see things like Trudeau dictatorship trending on Twitter.
Well, another aspect to this crashing of the economy with the proposed digital currency to come is the need to do away with cash. And it seems that the excuse of this pandemic has really put it into the minds of the masses that cash is somehow dirty and should not be used. I mean, we're now experiencing in brick and mortar stores, we walk in and they look at us like we have the plague when we try to hand over a $20 bill. It's only touch and pay now. Do you see that as also by design? Because it seems that in order to have this blockchain-based digital currency in the future, they're going to have to get rid of cash. Is that part of the play here as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a multi-pronged approach. I mean, this is the whole enchilada for the globalists. And if they can get rid of cash, I mean, that's They need to get rid of they need to get rid of guns, and they need to get rid of cash, because you can have whatever you want to have, but if you have 350 million America or 350 million guns out there in America, I mean, that's what they're scared of. So that's why you see this big propaganda push to get rid of the guns, and that's actually why I decided to actually push for Donald Trump. So people are thinking, oh, this guy, here he is bashing Trump. Well, I was a gigantic Trump supporter. I mean, I was wearing a Trump shirt the day my daughter was born, because she was born on the day after his inauguration, because you had the libertarians coming in and saying that Bill Weld, in particular, in August of 2016, said that handguns are more dangerous than AR-15s, and that AR-15s are dangerous. And to me, the right to bear arms is, is basically the checkmate and everything else. So the two main checkmates for me, and the two most things that I focus on the most, I mean, the most would be the Federal Reserve, and then also gun rights. And I'm not a big gun guy. I'm not usually not walking around with guns and stuff like that, but I know the importance of what that represents. And even look at the attack on every single amendment we have here. Was the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. I mean, pretty soon, who knows? Maybe they're going to start having the Third Amendment, being out of play, and having troops getting quartered. I mean, this is just the rapidness of how things are devolving. I mean, I almost wish we were just at the level of tyranny that we had 3 weeks ago, because now none of this stuff gets rolled back. They never, like Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste. This is the crisis that they're using this to scapegoat everything else, because all this economy, when you had Donald Trump in 2016 saying that, Janet Yellen is doing political things. She's trying to help with Obama. She's keeping interest rates low. And now I've got Trump, who just yesterday came out and said that, he called up Jerome Powell and said, basically, attaboy, good job, so proud of you. When the entire reason I wanted him in there is because he sounded like me going in there. There's a quote in there, and I used this at my Anarchapulco talk that I highly recommend you guys check out, that said something along the lines of, the unemployment number is the most phony, fake number that's ever been invented by presidents and politicians just to make them look good. And so here he is spouting like he had read my book or something, and then now he's backtracking in all this. And so I didn't change, he changed, and he did everything he could to take the easy road to this. Even 3 years ago, you had the Dallas Fed governor of the Federal Reserve, Richard Fisher, on CNBC, saying that the economy was previously being stimulated using, this is his quote, not mine, using heroin and cocaine, and now it's being maintained on Ritalin. Well, Ritalin wasn't enough, and now they have to step it up to like fentanyl or something. And it's just the level of what's going on. I mean, the balance sheet went from about 4.5 trillion down to about 3.8. The example I used was, this is a 600-pound person that's now 555 pounds. They're trying to take a victory lap of, oh, if I lose another 5 pounds, I'm gonna die. And yet now this 600-pound person is now going to be going up to 700, 800, 1,000 pounds. The Fed's balance sheet is going hockey stick. This is the end game right now, which is a very dangerous time, because originally I thought that they would use a war to usher this in, and now they're using a virus to usher this in. And I just hope that people do not take the bait and do not try to accept this digital currency, because this is the mark of the beast, in my opinion.
I agree. So let's move into the area of solutions here, because we don't want to contribute to the fear state, although we want people to be aware that they need to be prepared for these things that are coming. So I know you can't necessarily give financial advice, but what are some of the things that you think people should be doing proactively now, today, to protect themselves? I know a lot of people are looking into purchasing Bitcoin, looking into maybe getting a little bit of gold and silver right now, getting out of the stock market. What are some of the things that you think people ought to be doing today to deal with what we're inevitably going to see in about a month from now?
Yeah, so the first time I ever went on a video talking about my investment strategy, at least the current one that I've been using for the past year and a half, was on October 3rd, 2018, which is very fitting, because that was the day before Jerome Powell famously said that we're on autopilot. And so in that presentation, and I gave this at Anarchapulco as well, as actually the last two Anarchapulcos I talked about this strategy, is the strategy that I was using is I had essentially, it's worked a lot like let's say homeowners insurance, where if you're, let's say you got a $2,000 deductible, you break your window, the window's only $1,000, you don't hit your deductible, it doesn't really work. However, if your house burns down, then the insurance kicks in, and this is not insurance, but just bear with me with the example. Then we build your house back. So but we also were long some of these different indexes. So in actuality, what I was betting on extreme volatility, where essentially, as long as the market didn't remain flat, my clients were going to win. So we started doing this August of 2018. And the reason it was August 2018, because I actually lost my job for speaking at Anarchapulco 2018, and I wasn't able to get back. I chose to make a philosophical stand I was told that, you know, you're not allowed to go and talk about Bitcoin there. And I'm like, and I was telling people how they could sell Bitcoin using charitable trust to legally bypass capital gains, doing the same type of tools that the elite use. And so I wasn't allowed to give that talk. I'm like, what am I, 5 years old? So I decided to drop my Series 7 license, pay a gigantic fine. And then they decided to hold on to my paperwork for 7 months, so I couldn't work. And then once I finally was able to work, I was getting people into these strategies, and that has been the winning play. So what happened was Q4 2018, the market went down about 20%. Our clients at that time were down about 3. I should have cast out those put options, but I didn't. However, 2019, the market S&P was up about 30%. Our clients got about 25. And then this past year, we re-upped those put options January 15th. We bought them between $16 and $17. Now those options are trading, last time I checked yesterday, we're trading around $110. Given the market's up a ton today, I mean, it's probably closer to like 100 or 90 bucks. So this is a very highly volatile situation. So we used a tiny bit of the portfolio that then protected the rest of the portfolio. And so the last thing I'm worried about is the market being flat, but we're going to probably be switching that strategy soon. All this you guys can go back that entire presentation, see me just nail all the things that were going wrong. And then not only that, how to then protect yourself, because it's not about trying to, you know, make out like a bandit in all this. It's about trying to be the least worst off. And so even guys like, not to put him on blast, because I do like a lot of his economic analysis, Peter Schiff, a lot of their clients still got wrecked during all this. Whereas, I mean, I probably had the best performance in the past year and a half out of any financial advisor in the country, because I got the gains last year and I only went down 5% this year. And it's all on video of everything that I was talking about. But my goal is I want to help people. I want to make sure they don't lose their retirements. And so we do a lot of, our traditional investing is very untraditional. And then even we are able to get, you know, if you wanted physical gold or silver, I even got crypto. People have crypto inside of retirement accounts where they hold the private keys, because to me, the best time to buy Bitcoin is when everybody is scared, you know what, Liz. And right now I'm looking at the fear and greed index. Well, actually it's a lie, I'm not looking at it right now, but a couple of days ago, it was about a 9. And so on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 is complete euphoria, optimism. And the best time to buy is always been when, you know, buy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are buying. Right now, everybody is fearful. And so to me, again, not financial advice, because, you know, it can still go from wherever it is, 6,300, maybe it goes down to 3,000, but I'm looking for the long run play. And this is also ridiculous. So at the TDV Investment Summit that I was speaking at, afterwards, somebody asked me a question on stage and said, what do you expect Bitcoin to do in a crisis? On stage, this is February 11th, I said, I expect Bitcoin to go down between 50 and 80% during the initial phases of the crisis. However, the reaction to the crisis, and this is how you started off the video, I'm not worried about the crisis. I'm worried about the reaction to the crisis. The reaction to the crisis is, and this is even moving faster than I thought, you know, having all these $1 trillion bailouts. This is going to be a complete hockey stick. And I think you're going to see Bitcoin, you know, eventually the dollar lose complete value, but the dollar will at first get stronger. And that was another very contrarian. So I'm even contrarian amongst the crowd of contrarians, where I was thinking the dollar was going to get stronger, but then that strength, because people always do the wrong thing at the wrong time. And I know this is a really long answer, but going back to August 3rd, August of 2011, I forgot if it was Moody's or S&P, they downgraded the U.S. debt. When they downgraded the U.S. debt, let's say you had inside information on that, you would have thought, okay, well, now the U.S. has less of a chance of paying me back. They're riskier. I should demand a higher coupon payment, higher interest payment. What happened is the exact opposite. People flooded into U.S. debt because they flooded into what they perceived as safety, and actually people were getting paid less interest. And so I was trying to think of what the average person would do. But the most important thing is making sure you've got, in these times, making sure you have food, making sure you have water, making sure you have good neighbors, making sure you've got, you know, defenses, making sure you've got medical supplies. You know, that's more important than, you know, having gold or silver, trying to profit. But I see people more concerned with profiting. But for me, I wanted to be able to hold on to what my clients had. And then now if I exercise those put options, and let's say when the market is down 50%, now effectively I'm able to buy twice as much. So when it goes back up, in my opinion, they're going to just make it go back up because it's going to print so much money. Now effectively we have twice as much stuff. So I have a very different mindset than probably almost any other advisor, except for the other ones that work with us over here. And, you know, I just implore people that if you don't know your advisor, you want a guy who's, you know, outwardly, you know, libertarian, you know, making sacrifice. I mean, I'm running, you know, Ron Paul marathons with Ron Paul signs going back to 2012, but it's only because I know what is going on with the Federal Reserve. I only got into all this stuff because I had a guy tell me the Fed was private and I didn't believe him. And then when I found out it was private, I'm like, wait a minute. I was in the national class that won the national. I was in a class that won the national competition on the Federal Reserve against Harvard, Yale, and MIT. I had a Series 7, Series 66, certified financial planner, chartered retirement planning counselor, and I didn't know that that was private. And then that pissed me off so much that it's lit a fire under my butt for the past. This is probably 2010-ish, right around the time I discovered Bitcoin. And unfortunately, I wish I didn't discover all that stuff because I probably would have bought into Bitcoin. But, this whole Mark of the Beast thing. And here we are. We're full circle. Mark of the Beast is here. They're trying to jam it down our throats. And I just want to let people know that there is other ways to do this. Everything is going digital, and people just need to know to not accept the government's version of the Mark of the Beast, because it's coming. We're in the end games. It's a whole technocratic control grid. And if you guys can't tell by now, obviously I'm a little bit different than probably your average financial advisor. If you like what you're hearing with me, I really would appreciate you guys checking me out.
Yeah, awesome stuff, man. Really, really good words of advice. This is why I wanted to have you on today, because you, from what I can tell, have been 2 steps ahead of the game and have made the correct predictions that we're seeing unfold before our very eyes today. So I want to strongly encourage people to check you out. Where's the best place for people to go if they want to learn more from you moving forward here?
Yeah, thelibertyadvisor.com. Also doing daily shows now with Luke Rudowski, where it's called Change the News. So if you just put in, so it's gonna be Change the News channel is what we're going with. And then also doing videos with Josh Segerson at World Alternative Media. But yeah, I do have my own YouTube channel that I just started recently. It only has 800 subscribers. So if you guys could help me out and get above 1,000, so then that way I can do live streaming and other stuff, I'd appreciate that. Because Dan's not even allowed to live stream right now. So maybe in the future we could do some sort of something like that. But it's thelibertyadvisor.com is the best way. If you guys you can go schedule me right there. You get me, not any of my minions or something like this. If you go call me, it's from the phone that's right there. And so that's something that's, if you guys see this 2 years from now, that's probably not gonna be the case. See it 2 months from now, it's not gonna be the case, because I've never been busier with more people contacting me, because they see that I have been ahead of the. And it's not to take a victory lap, because what I've been predicting is not gonna be good for my kids or grandkids or great grandchildren. And I see what's going on in Venezuela, and I see what's going on in other places, and knowing that that's the game plan for what these people have here. But they're gonna get us to beg for the answer, and their answer is gonna be this digital control grid, and it just scares the heck out of me. It just scares the heck out of everybody else there. And but there are ways to play this, and a lot of people think that, hey, you know what, everything's gone down, it's a little bit too late. It's not too late. A lot of money's made in the way back up, but it's probably not in the same things you're in right now. And so we hope that we would be in the things that do go up, because there's going to be things that got beat down way too much. There's things already that are beat down way too much, and you got to be tactical how you get into this. And we think we've been doing a very good job over here.
Yeah, I agree. So awesome stuff. I definitely want to encourage people to subscribe to your channel. Links are going to be in the description below. Guys, let's get them up over 800. We should be able to do that no problem today. Go into the description, click the subscribe button, and so we can hear more from Tim coming live in the very near future on this global crashing of the economy. So Tim, man, thanks so much once again for joining us here today.
No, thank you so much. It's been an honor. I've been following your work for a long time, and it's my pleasure, Dan.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.